friends. Welcome to Sky House Herbs podcast. I'm Ashley Ellenboss, a clinical herbalist, and in this space, I share my knowledge and experience with plant medicine to help you on your own journey of healing and transformation. Join me in exploring the ancient wisdom of plant spirit medicine and how it can be used to heal the body, mind, and spirit. We'll talk to experts in the field and share stories from people who've been transformed by powerful plant allies. New episodes are released each Monday, so please subscribe. And now, let's explore this mystical world of plant medicine together. Hey everyone, welcome in. I am so glad you're here. My name is Ashley Marie Ellenboss, and I'm a clinical herbalist with over 20 years of experience working with plants and working with people. And today's episode is a great one because I'm going to give you some inside scoops for how you can help to regulate your mood. And it's really not that hard once you understand this very specific mood triangle, we'll call it. And this will give you some really great tools you can use for adapting your own mood, as well as looking at some key adaptogenic plants that I think make a very valuable contribution to feeling good. So let's get into it. Before we dive into today's content, please take a second to click the subscribe button and click on receive all notifications. That way you can hear about my next videos. I want to start off by just saying what a profound shift knowing this information has made in my personal life. And I know it's going to make a change and an impact in your life as well. When we understand this triad between the nervous system, the endocrine system, and the digestive system, then you will have so many more tools helping yourself regulate your mood. And before we go into that triad, I want to talk about what the mood is. And this will hopefully give you some context for today's conversation. Here's the way that I like to think about it. We have our emotions and then we have our mood. And our emotions are like weather patterns. They move through us. They're things like joy and happiness and sadness and anger and frustration and overwhelm. And these can have an impact on our physiology and on our well-being. But over time, our emotions and then the choices we make because of our emotional state can lead to changes in our mood. Think about your mood more as the climate. So it's something that lasts rather than emotions which fluctuate day to day or moment to moment based on your circumstances. Your mood is what persists over the course of days, weeks, or even months. You can even think about for yourself when there's been periods of your life where your mood has felt really good. You felt yourself. You've felt like you have energy and creativity and stamina. And then other periods of your life where maybe your mood has felt a little bit heavy or you felt a little scattered, right? So our individual and the ways that we process information in the moment to moment impact the overall tone or mood, or we could even say like vibe that we put off on a longer scale of time. Now, I know you want to get into, okay, well, what do I do to create a good positive mood that will make me feel like myself and carry me through the hard times ahead? And I promise you we'll get there. But I do want to start off by teaching you a little bit about how the body works. And that will help you even get a deeper appreciation for how your choices are going to affect that long-term mood state. Let's start by talking about the endocrine system. Now, the endocrine system is our hormones and our neurotransmitters, and these are responsible for signaling from our gut to our brain and from our brain to our gut how we're doing and what types of emotions we might have greater access to. For example, some of our neurotransmitters are specifically responsible for how we feel. For example, serotonin has to do with our feelings of contentment and happiness and stability, have a big role in how we sleep. And they also have a role in our gut and digestive health, which we'll get to in a little bit. Other neurotransmitters include dopamine, which have to do with our motivation and pleasure, our GABA, neurotransmitters, which help us to feel calm and relaxed and safe. And then norepinephrine, which gives us focus. And they're it's related to cortisol. So our norepinephrine gives us the chance to feel excited, to have good cognition, to have focus and alertness. Our nervous system regulates how we feel in terms of, are we in a fight or flight state, or are we in a rest and digest state? And having some control over this, where we are sympathetically or parasympathetically, plays a huge role in how our mood develops over time. For example, if we have our foot on the gas pedal all the time and we're in a sympathetic state, then we're going to feel rushed. We're going to feel overwhelmed. We're going to probably be more likely to experience feelings of anxiety. And this is going to shape the mood and the milieu of our internal emotional environment. And on the other hand, if we've been pushing the gas pedal down for so long, we may have already dipped into what we can call adrenal fatigue, where we just feel tired, or we have that wired and tired, where we can't sleep at night, but we're exhausted all day. And then again, that will have an impact on how our moods feel and our general climate and how we are with other people. And we all know that, when we're feeling our best, we're much more pleasant to be around and we actually enjoy being around ourselves more. So I want to show you some herbs that have specific effects on the adrenals, our HPA axis, and on our neuroendocrine system and these neurotransmitters. And then we have a ton of studies that give us pieces of the puzzle so that we can find, well, which herbs will be the best for our current nervous system and endocrine system state. But before we go into the plants, we have the third part of the triangle, and that's our digestive system. And we all know that our gut microbiome is responsible for a lot of how we feel, and that our gut is responsible for majority of our serotonin. That's our feel-good hormone, and our hormones that make us feel both pleasure and motivation and happiness. When we have a very solid gut microbiome, we are going to produce more serotonin. We're going to break down our food better. We're going to assimilate more nutrients from our food. And we're going to overall experience a better quality of life. I want to take a second to talk also about food on a more energetic level, because I think this is an important part of it too in this triad when we're trying to reduce stress and we're trying to improve our mood, is that food matters. And the temperature of the food, the texture of the food, the quality of the food all play a huge role in how we feel. And think about this. When you're sick, how nice is it for someone to drop off some homemade soup? Or if you're feeling really cold and you make some soup on the stove, how nourishing does that feel? And there's something qualitative about that feeling of nourishment that we can sense. We can, it's not rocket science to know that soup makes us feel good. And when we match not only just the temperature and the texture and the taste with nutrition, then we're really impacting how we're feeling. And so I just want to say that right now, when I'm recording this, we're in the fall season. And if we really want to help our mood, if we want to feel comfortable, calm, safe, and secure from a nervous system standpoint, if we make a nice warm stew or a big pot of chili and we fill it with nourishing root vegetables like carrots and potatoes and sweet potatoes and parsnips and turnips, this is actually going to do something incredible for our sense of well-being. Drinking something warm and eating something warm and nutritious with high protein, good quality fats, and good root vegetable starches is going to give our gut the signal, and the vagus nerve the signal, that we are safe, that we can rest, that we can digest, that we can be okay. And then that sends signals too throughout our neuroendocrine system and through the creation of that serotonin, that we can be happy and we can feel good. So food matters. And I want us to remember this as we're talking about the herbs, because the herbs are going to help feed the good feelings that will help us get motivated to make the soup, to eat the soup, to make us feel good and relaxed and safe. And so this is like a triangle of energy. And if we can get all three of them moving harmoniously and smoothly, everything will start to feel better. And if it can feel better in the moment, then we're creating a tone that will make us feel better over time. So we're investing in the moment, in a nervous system, in a digestive system, and into our neuroendocrine system. We're investing in so that we can start to feel great. Okay? All right. Let's talk about the plants now. I mentioned earlier that our neurotransmitters are responsible for the mood and tone of our nervous system. And we have evidence, we know that there are herbs that have specific effects on specific neurotransmitters. Let's talk about those now. We know that herbs like St. John's wort, which has so much research behind it, has an effect on serotonin levels, which is why a lot of doctors and people are very worried about St. John's wort, because it has such a strong effect on serotonin, and it works much like a serotonin reuptake inhibitor, or SSRIs. And this is why we as herbalists always ask our clients, are you taking any medications? And if clients are taking medications that are mood regulators like an SSRI, we say, you know what, don't take the St. John's wort, because you're going to just amplify what the medication is doing. However, if you're not taking an SSRI and you have a sense, or maybe you've had tests that have been done that show that you have low serotonin levels, then this would be a great herb that you could start to take. Other herbs that can be very helpful in increasing either our production, and this can be not only directly but indirectly supporting the tissues that create these neurotransmitters, would be herbs like Milky, Oats, and lemon balm. These have been shown to help enhance the production of serotonin in the gut. Another key neurotransmitter that we can affect with herbal medicine is dopamine. And dopamine is responsible for our pleasure and our motivation principle. Herbs like Rhodiola, Tulsi, and Schisandra are amazing and excellent ways of gently boosting dopamine levels. And let me tell you how. Rhodiola specifically has a direct dopamine effect. It modulates the monoamine neurotransmitters, and this includes not only dopamine, but also our serotonin and our norepinephrine levels by inhibiting their enzymatic breakdown via monoamine oxidase inhibition. And it enhances the transport and receptor sensitivity of dopamine, and that's pretty amazing. We can think about taking something like rhodiola to increase dopamine availability in the brain, and particularly in areas linked to motivation, focus, and mood. And I remember listening to a talk with our beloved herbalist grandmother, Rosemary Gladstar, and she talked about when she was going through perimenopause, how rhodiola was like her best friend in her back pocket, and that she took rhodiola throughout her menopausal and perimenopausal years because it's such a great adaptogen. It helps the body adapt to stress, adapt to high cortisol. But what it also does is it brings up dopamine levels in the brain, which makes you feel motivated and good. And I just think about all the books Rosemary Gladstar has written, all of the courses she's taught, her huge garden, her product line, all of the students she's been teaching. I mean, this woman is amazing. And so when I think about her navigating perimenopause and having rhodiola as her primary herbal ally, I'm like, I'm going to take this one too. And so I've taken rhodiola, and it's true. I do find that I have greater clarity, greater focus, greater motivation, and that I don't get as amped up and stressed out over things when I'm taking rhodiola. Now, I will say rhodiola is a little bit drying. So if you do tend to run dry, you might want to buffer this with another more moistening herb, maybe something like Milky Oat tops. And I will say that rhodiola is best taken in the morning and not in the evening because it is a little bit stimulating. So check with your herbalist in terms of, I'll include a few sources for rhodiola, but this might be a nice one to add into your herbal regime, along with nourishing yourself with foods and, of course, taking down stressful circumstances in your environment as much as possible. Another herb that I wanted to talk about today is Tulsi, or holy basil. And this is not only a beautiful herb that has spiritual and a deep ancient connection to the heart, But it's also an herb that I have found to be really helpful for people who get really stressed out and have maybe their foot on the gas pedal and they tend to run a little bit on the cold side. And I want to say this because Tulsi is a very warming, it's a very aromatic herb. It's in the mint family and it's got a pretty strong flavor. And it makes, for me personally, I think it makes a really nice tea. Maybe 2 teaspoons of the dried herb in 2 cups of hot water. Let it steep for 10 minutes. Drink it warm in the morning, maybe in the afternoon. It helps to reduce cortisol, which in turn supports healthy dopamine signaling, since chronic stress tends to suppress dopamine activity. I think having an herb like Tulsi as a tea is going to help support not only this neurotransmitter signaling and downregulating our stress response, but it also has an effect on our digestion. And this is, I love it when herbs can kind of do all three things. So if we think about again, this triad of our digestive system, our neuroendocrine system, and our adrenals, our nervous system, Tulsi really does an amazing effect on all three because it also is a carminative. So it works on digestion specifically. It increases blood flow to the digestive tract. It helps with digestion, assimilation. It cuts down on gas and bloating, which is amazing. And it also has been shown in studies to regulate blood sugar, which can have a profound effect on mood. So something as simple as drinking Tulsi tea every morning, it can have a profound effect on this triad of regulating our mood. Another herb that's worth mentioning in this context is Schisandra. This is a Chinese herb. Its Latin name is Schisandra chinensis, and chinensis tells us it's from China. It's a wonderful medicine used in traditional Chinese medicine. Schisandra is considered to be sour and slightly cooling. I love this herb because it's an adaptogen. It's a gentle nervine. If you're someone who feels really depleted, let's just say you're the type of person where you've had your foot on the gas pedal for a long time and you're just run out, like you feel like you just don't have any energy, you've burned the candle at both ends, this is where I think Schisandra is a really nice herb because it increases and gently supports the production of dopamine in the body to give us that clarity, to give us that alertness, to give us motivation. And at the same time, it downregulates cortisol in the body so that we don't feel that fight or flight response. Schisandra is such a great herb to talk about in this context because it has an effect on all three of these triune systems. Let's talk about digestion first because this is really cool. Schisandra is considered to be sour and cooling, but it's also very astringent. So it has a strong tonifying effect on the digestive system. It was used and has and continues to be used in Chinese medicine as an astringent to help tonify qi. That means if you have leaky gut or you're leaking energy out, and this can be both metaphorical and literal, then Schisandra helps to tone the tissues to help you hold your vital force or hold your qi. Schisandra is really good for helping our body detoxify. It supports the breakdown of toxins through the liver by increasing bile production. If you tend towards PMS or have big mood fluctuations around your menstrual cycle, Schisandra is a really nice one because it helps the clearance of excess hormones in the body. And if that is part of why you might be having big mood swings around your cycle, then you can try this herb to help regulate the smooth flow of qi, of energy, to help clear toxins out of your body. And at the same time, it helps to support dopamine production. So again, we've got that beautiful trifecta here with Schisandra. It might be fun to do a little bit of like case study mock-up. So let me give you some examples where we could use these herbs and food and pair them in a way that would be very healing. Let's take, for example, someone who is wired and tired. And this is a person who is up late at night. They have a really hard time falling asleep. They have a hard time staying asleep. And then they wake up exhausted. So they're wired at night, but then they're tired during the day. What I would do for someone like this is I would start by helping them get good sleep. And we can do this with herbs and we can do this with the temperature of the herbs. I would start this person with a relaxing tea that's going to take down cortisol and help to increase release the neurotransmitter GABA by using a lot of our aromatic herbs that affect the vagus nerve and also help to affect our GABA receptors. GABA, or gamma aminobutyric acid, is a primary inhibitory neurotransmitter in our central nervous system that is responsible for our calming activity in our brain. And so there are GABA receptors on many nerve cells, GABA receptor alpha and beta. But what is so important for us to know is that when our GABA receptors are active and when we have good GABA signaling, we feel calm, we feel able to sleep, and we just feel like we're able to get on in life. And a lot of our herbs can affect our GABA signaling. For example, lavender affects our GABA alpha receptors, and so therefore it can help us to more quickly signal a relaxation response in the central nervous system. So for this person, what I would do is do something like a warm evening tea with herbs that affect GABA signaling. For example, lavender, chamomile, and lemon balm would all be wonderful aromatic herbs that would be calming and soothing to the nervous system and help get that down regulation, or the brake pedal, in our central nervous system. I would have this as a warm tea because the warmth also signals a relaxation response throughout the entire enteric nervous system, which is sort of our gut brain, if you will. Then I would think about, in the morning, how do we help support them to have more energy and a more even experience of their energy throughout the day. And this is where those adaptogens would shine really well. For example, maybe they would take rhodiola, and they could take maybe 3 milliliters, which is like a dropper full and a half every morning. Maybe they would drink a warm Tulsi tea and have that to start off their day to increase dopamine production and to increase a little bit of that boost for their memory and cognition. If this person also was having mood fluctuations due to hormonal issues, then I would have them take some Schisandra berry. Or maybe if they were having a lot of digestive issues and it seemed like they had a little bit of maybe leaky gut, they had a lot of autoimmune stuff, or they were having issues with their skin, I would say, let's try adding in a little bit of Schisandra berry. Maybe we would do about 3 mils in the morning and in the afternoon. Another example we could use is the person who can tell they're getting burnt out, but they're not burnt out yet. They're not wired and tired yet, but they're like, I know this track, and if I keep going, I'm going to crash. So for that person, what I would do is, it wouldn't be actually that dissimilar. So let's start your day with a little bit of those calming nervines. Let's start your day with just a little bit of chamomile and then some herbs that are going to really build up and nourish your nervous system. And I would think about Tulsi. I would also think about some of our medicinal mushrooms. Reishi is one of my favorites for building deep immunity, also deep endocrine support and balancing our stress and cortisol levels. And one thing that I really like about reishi is that it brightens the spirit. So if you're feeling like your spirit's starting to get a little bit dampened, then reishi would be a wonderful herb to add in. And you can use this in capsulations. And I would do maybe 3 capsules every morning and evening. And reishi can also help with sleep. So you could take them about 30 minutes before bed, and that will help you deeply replenish your adrenals and your neurotransmitters and your digestive system while you're sleeping. And now just a little bit of added bonus. So if you are thinking, yes, I want to start taking these adaptogens, I know which one seems like a good fit for me, I'm going to start eating more soups, I'm going to start really nourishing myself and taking my gut health more seriously, that's great. But let me give you a few more little tips that you can do that will really help you hack this triangle so that you can have a more stable and more enjoyable mood. The most basic one is to sync your daily rhythms with that of the sun and the moon. If you can try to get to bed as the sun is setting and getting low and dark, and I know here in Minnesota, it's getting dark early, but trying your best to go to bed earlier in the winter and then waking up when the sun wakes up and aligning your biorhythms with the biorhythms of the earth in the season that you're you're in makes a tremendous impact on your nervous system and your neurotransmitters and on your digestive system. Another little hack, and this came from a Harvard study, and I think this is just brilliant, is if you're a person that tends to get wired, you tend to get anxious, you tend to get worried. The Harvard study found that instead of trying to downregulate and say, I need to calm myself down, turning and switching and reframing that anxiety as excitement. If you can, in that moment when you're feeling a lot of big feelings, as we call them in our house, and instead of saying, I need to calm myself down, I need to sedate, I need to shut down this anxiety, instead say, well, what am I feeling excited about in this moment? What in this feeling in my body is actually something that I can build from, that I can bring into a greater expression through the work that I'm doing? And that simple reframe they found in this 2019 study was enough to help people downregulate their cortisol levels, which then are more depleting on their system overall. And that's just a simple reframing exercise that everyone can do. So in a quick recap of today's material, just remember that our mood is like the climate that we have over the expanse of days, weeks, and months. And this is the emotional tone that we carry out into the world, that we carry into our relationships, that we carry into our work. If we want to create a more regulated nervous system and endocrine system and digestive system so that we can have a tone that feels good in our body, there are simple things we can do. And by addressing these three different triads, we can then create a system of flow where the digestive system, with warm, nourishing, and supportive, clean and healthy foods, will help to build us into being able to have a central nervous system that is regulated. Cortisol levels go up and down as they're needed. Our norepinephrine gives us joy and motivation and focus, right? Our dopamine gives us that motivation and that focus, right? So we're going to have this upward swing into a regulated central nervous system. And that central nervous system is going to then feed into the neuroendocrine system, which is all of our neurotransmitters and signaling. And so these three feed each other. In closing, just remember to feed yourself, be good to yourself, and give yourself both herbs and food and activities that are going to give you that feeling that you've been looking for inside. And for me, I always go back to the word serenity. And that's from my work in 12-step programs. But serenity, it's not always peace. I don't always want to be happy, but I want to have serenity. And so I safeguard my serenity, or at least I try my best to, by practicing taking my herbs, which is what I'm doing right now. I'm drinking my tea with some of my favorite herbs in them. And I am going to go to the gym and exercise so that I can regulate my cortisol, and then also engage in activities with my family this evening that are going to be very regulating and good for my nervous system. So I encourage you to do the same. Please let me know your thoughts, your questions, your comments. Was anything unclear? I'm happy to answer them for you. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Thanks, everyone. Take care.